got to show up to see.
But do you...
Next chess move, because I'm going to checkmate you on the next one. Go ahead. Be careful. No, be careful. No. Think about it for 2 seconds while you're talking to me and look me in my pupils. Go ahead now.
Do you think that Joe Calzaghe will find anything he encounters this week a little bit unsettling?
You'll see for yourself come Saturday. Body language speaks for itself. Watch the body language. Forget the crowd, forget all that. Watch the body language.
He's planning a stunt, isn't he?
He's planning a stunt, and what it's going to be, I mean, when they come head-to-head in the next 24 hours, and we'll have that on tomorrow night's show, Paul, when they come head-to-head, we'll see what he does. And then we'll see what he brings after they come head-to-head. And we'll see then if Joe can sleep as peacefully as he claims he's been sleeping in the Welsh Valleys, as he claims he's been sleeping in his mansion. Strange things happen in Vegas, Paul. 52 times I've been there, and I've seen some bizarre things. I've seen tough fighters, hard men fall apart.
Some strange things happen when it's Bernard Hopkins in the other corner, that is for sure. And
that's the other thing. And this is what Bernard's people keep talking about. Every time Joe's looked across, he's looking at a guy who's never met anybody like him. Now he's looking across at a guy who's better than him.
Forget the fighting skills. He was described by a newspaperman as the most forbidding psychoanalyst in America.
Oh, he really is. I mean, I've spent so much time with Bernard. I mean, I was with him in Miami before one fight. Twice I've been with him in Philadelphia. And to say this guy is complex is an understatement. He is one of the most complex human beings in sport I've known. He's the best sports story not written and not filmed.
OK, Steve, that's all true, but, you know, although it's been a shortened career for his problems with the law in the early part of his life, he is 43 years old now. And I know he's a physical exception, but is there a case that he still loves the show, and he's already proved that this week, but when it comes to it, he won't actually like doing the hard part anymore?
He's been doing the hard part since he was a 9-year-old boy, and even before then. And what you have to remember is he is part of the show. In a sense, he's part of the promotion. Now, what's interesting is he's drafted in a guy called Marky Shieldstone. This is a fitness guru. This is a guy that commands millions for his books. This is a guy that is much sought after. He trained in New York, the New Orleans Police Department, and he's working with Hopkins. And what he's done with Hopkins, okay, is he's evaluated. They've had CAT scans to look at body composition. Okay, they've done internal probes to check if there's any problems whatsoever. And what he has said, he has declared, he's on record, he's America's foremost fitness guru, he's on record as saying that Bernard Hopkins isn't 43, he's 27 or 28.
Nice appreciation. Here's our co-promoter, Frank Warren.
Frank, Bernard Hopkins, he's an extraordinary person to watch. He's an incredible person to interview. What do you make of him as a man?
I quite like him. I mean, he's come from a tough background. He's a guy who went to prison and came out of prison and turned his life around, and you've got to respect him for that. He's a phenomenal athlete. He's 43 years of age. He looks like he could fight any day of the week. He doesn't, without any preparation. He keeps himself in such great condition, and I've got a lot of time for him.
What makes him special as a fighter, especially, do you think?
I think that the fact that he keeps himself so well, and you've got to look at the an undisputed fact that he is 43 years of age and still top of his game. You've got to be some phenomenal athlete to do that.
What's his motivation, do you think? Because it can't just be money. He's obviously made bucket loads of that. He's been a world champion. Why is he still in there at the age of 43?
Money is part of it, but it's that American mentality of being a winner. I mean, you look at over the years gone by, you look and see how many American fighters, very wealthy, made themselves wealthy, but carried on fighting because they wanted the glory, and he's one of those guys.
Do you think he's bothered about the belt this weekend, or is it about taking on the best, Joe Calzaghe, and gaining respect?
It's both. I mean, I think it's a bit of both, but at the end of the day, fighting Joe Calzaghe, he's fighting the best super middleweight of all time, because that's what Joe Calzaghe is. He is the best super middleweight champion that's been.
But still in all, this is when he's got to prove it, and Las Vegas is where he's going to have to do it, Joe Calzaghe. Let's get back there to Rob Walker and the rest of our team.
Welcome to the Strip, welcome to Las Vegas, welcome to America's Playground. We're here in the build-up to the biggest fight of Joe Calzaghe's career so far as he takes on the executioner Bernard Hopkins for the right to be acclaimed the world's #1 light heavyweight. With me, John Rawling and Richie Woodall, two veterans of Vegas. John, just how excited are you to be back for this one?
Always excited to come here for a big fight. I mean, I've been coming here for the better part of 20 years, Rob, watching the big fights, and this is boxing's world capital, and to see Joe here after so long, after such a terrific career, and with a fight of this magnitude, is something special. The bars of this place, the restaurants, all the people coming in here, they're going to be talking boxing over the next few days as the excitement builds towards the big fight, and there are going to be thousands coming in from Britain, and the atmosphere, believe me, is going to be absolutely crackling.
Richie, from a boxer's perspective, what will it be like for Joe Calzaghe to be here this week and see his name up in lights?
Well, from a boxer's point of view, this is a dream come true for any boxer to fight in Vegas, but to top the bill here, to walk down the Strip and see your name in lights, you know you've made it. And last year we had Ricky Hatton, there was thousands that came over with Ricky, and we're hoping exactly the same. They're starting to flood in now, the British fight fans. We want the Brits back here, roaring Calzaghe onto victory.
John, you've said all along this is going to be a hard fight for Calzaghe. Hopkins is in ridiculously good shape for a 43-year-old.
Well, I always said this was going to be tough, and I think this could be a harder fight for Joe than Mikel Kessler was. He is in freakishly good shape, Bernard Hopkins. We saw him earlier on, and he's absolutely ripped. He's got the body of a man at least 10 years his junior. And the thing is, he has this phenomenal winning mentality. Back in the 90s, he had the defeat against Roy Jones, then 11 years before those two contested defeats against Jermaine Taylor, and since then he's taken out two southpaws in Antonio Tarver and Winky Wright, and as we know, Joe Calzaghe is a southpaw. He calls himself the southpaw executioner, and he says that Joe's going to be the man, and it's going to be tough for Joe, this, there's no doubt about it.
Richie, can the man you once stepped into the ring with do it again?
Oh, definitely, because, you know, Calzaghe's undefeated and he's an exceptional southpaw, he really is. I think if Calzaghe wins this fight, he must keep it at distance. I think where Hopkins is going to try his luck is on the inside. He's going to get dirty. He's a bit of a dirty fighter against southpaws, and he's been successful, as John has said. But he won't have come up against a good as southpaw as Joe Calzaghe. Believe you me, I've been in there, and the guy is exceptional.
Well, thanks, guys. Plenty more debate, plenty more drama to come in the build-up to the big fight this Saturday, live and exclusive on Setanta.
You just get the idea, even out there as here, that there's plenty to play for long before the time of the first bell in this one.
Yeah, there's plenty to play for. What's interesting, Paul, is when this fight was first suggested in December, if you stopped 10 people, 9 of them would say, oh, Joe will win, he's too old. And then when it was actually announced between Christmas and New Year, if you stopped 10 people, 7 of them would have said Joe will win. And now, if you stop 10 people, out there in the heat, 10,000 Brits, if you stop 10 people now, 5 say Joe will win, 5 say Hopkins will win. And what's happening, it's dawning on people a little bit later. I've been watching Hopkins for too many years. He's always in great shape. The only time he was not in great shape was his first fight. And he had a year off after that to get in shape.
Well, he was still in jail at that time.
Exactly. He'd come out of jail. He wasn't fit. He wasn't right. He boxed at light heavyweight, nearly cruiserweight. He lost that fight. And since then, his big thing is his regime, Paul.
Yeah, before we look ahead to what might happen over the next, 72 hours, Steve, that was the first impression of Bernard Hopkins for you this week. What does it tell you? He's not been in action for, what, almost a year.
Well, funny enough, his body language looked disgraceful. He didn't look right as he was walking to the ring. He was too edgy with our man Rob. I know Rob gets in your face, but he seemed a bit edgy there. You know, check move and be careful with your next move.
But he's like that with everybody. You wouldn't have expected anything
I've seen him a lot
you?
calmer. I saw him before Felix Trinidad. 16,000 people sold out Madison Square Garden. There was not a Bernard Hopkins fan in there. He did the job that night. He was calm in the build-up. He didn't look right there, but here's the thing, Paul. Last year, weigh-in, Ricky Hatton, 8,000 Brits. Ricky Hatton loving it, doing all of this. Floyd Mayweather looked nervous. He looked anxious. Not going to say scared. Got in the ring. Totally different man.
The thing with Bernard Hopkins as well, Steve, is that he's such an expert at moving the circumstances to his favour. And he's got the rest of this week to try and do something, hasn't he?
Listen, we've got the head-to-head, we've got the weigh-in, we've got the whole dirty tricks department, plus whatever seeds of doubt he can sow inside Enzo Calzaghe's head and sow inside Joe's head. They've got 3 or 4 nights to sleep peacefully. Hopkins will sleep like a baby. That's what he talks about.
So far, so good, though, for the Calzaghe camp?
So far, better than expected. You could see Joe there. I've seen Joe since he was a 12-year-old boy winning a schoolboy title in Derby. And you could see there, Joe's head was up, shoulders were down. That's how it's got to stay.
Have you got a good feeling about how they're doing it this week so far?
Absolutely perfect. They've been there for 10 or 12 days. They're very relaxed. There's no problems with the air conditioning, no suggestions of flu, which is one of the things that strikes down British boxers.
Absolutely.
He looks relaxed. When he trained yesterday, he didn't even bother to put his wraps on. He's just going through the motion. He's surrounded by his loved ones. It all looks fantastic. But you know what, Paul? There's 3 days to go.
Fingers crossed, but it is early days, as you say.